I pocket watch here, and I decided to not do any like big intros and stuff in short stories because I think I will just, read them in succession and stuff. So there's no reason for, and they are going to be uploaded probably very fast with each other. So yeah. Anyway, apparently I was right of the Reverend's Dim. That was the same sequence basically. Then it was in the Requiem. And now it seems like I'm going into the Lost and Pain, so it's going to be the set. Maybe I'm going to do this in the one episode, who knows. Anyway, let's continue. Like I said, no long intros, no big hellos, probably not big buys as well. Maybe I will just talk a little bit, but I'm not going to be extremely expressful about ending at the beginning. Let's go, Lost. Master. So, mate? I was wondering if I could ask for some time off. One autumn afternoon, a young maid stood in Jacopo's study, requesting a vacation, effectively signaling her intent to quit. He lit a cigar with practiced motions, took in a deep breath, and then blew the smoke out in a long, slow stream. Again, he thought, making sure not to let it show on his face. "What's your reason?" he asked. "Not satisfied how you've been treated? I feel you've been quite generous." "I feel we've been quite generous." "Oh no, not at all," she said. "In fact, you've been much better to me than my previous house." "Your previous house must have been I don't know, Barnier?" "I have no complaints about the treatment I have received." "Then why?" If I knew you would quit so soon, I would never have hired you in the first place." "But you just started showing more improvement." "All the time and money gone to waste." "I'm sorry. I'm asking for a reasoned apology," he said. His voice a mixture of exhaustion, irritated, and scolding that only made the girl recoil further. He let out another heavy sigh. "Our kids these days, all this stuff. Christ," he thought. "Another complaint to add to the mountain build up and locked inside. It's because, out of it. You know I don't like it when people aren't straight with me." The young maid looked up at her master apprehensively. Her dark brown eyes seemed to pierce straight through her soul, making her feel like she was being squeezed from the inside out. Other maids had told her he was a lot softer than he used to be, but she couldn't imagine that at all. He was a rich, unmarried, tasty man in his 30s. Everything about him was terrifying. Oh, this is before he met white-haired girl. Okay. And despite that, she was willing to face up to him and beg to quit because there was something even worse in the mansion. The headmaid scares me. Why? Oh, Maria was the maid head, right? I was confused for a second. I forgot. Jacopo raised an eyebrow. He had been expecting her to say he scared her. "Did the headmaid do something to you?" he asked. "No, she didn't." "Then why?" Ash fell from Jacopo's cigar, his irritation level rising. The young maid looked at him, fury in her eyes. "Are you not scared of her too, master? Her appearance never changes at all." I'm confused. White-haired girl was his wife, not the maid. Oh wait, god damn it, I'm forgetting about the OG Fata Morgana now. God damn it. Maid as maid, she was always present in every game. Right, in every door. Right, the maid was the maid, the head maid in the Jacopo door too. My bad. God damn it, why I forgot about maid? What is wrong with me? Okay, never mind, me stupid, sorry. I may be tired. The past few years, there had been an increase in night quitting for vague, non-specific reasons, and he finally had his answer. When Jacopo purchased the mansion, he was 22 years old, taking the first step to expanding his family's influence to the new world. Expectations for him were high, and the pressure was almost suffocating when he was still an optimistic, ambitious young man at the time. He had to do this, and he had to do it right. It was that determination that allowed him to maintain the softness in his heart beneath the tough businessman at the manor, which was probably what led to him hiring the mysterious maid he found in his newly acquired estate. She was there when he first stepped through the door, calling him master and showing him around the property. Then once she's done, she started working. Jacopo wasn't sure what to make of the woman, but she seems to know what she was doing, and over time his suspicion slowly transformed to respect. "Where's your master?" he asked. "My previous master passed away," she said with a perfect smile. I mean, not wrong in a sense. Yeah, Michelle did die. As the owner of this mansion, you are my current master. Assuming that when the previous owner had just made no arrangements for her to transfer anywhere after he passed, Jacopo decided to let her stay and work as she wished. It was the responsibility of those with power to give work to those without, and he felt satisfaction in taking her in. And for more than 10 years, she did that work almost flawlessly. There's a lot of short stories about Jacopo. In general, there's a lot of stuff about Jacopo in Fata Morgana. Like, a lot. I mean, he's like he's probably like most important person to Morgana outside, like second most important, actually maybe the most important. Thinking about Michelle, but that's not the case. We have basically two pairs, Michelle, Giselle, and Morgana and Jacopo. Yeah, okay, I guess that makes sense, we have a lot of him. He's not some side character, he's basically the main character at this point. He's the main character and the main guy for Morgana, in the same way that Michelle is the main character and the main guy for Giselle. Okay. Anyway. And as long as she wasn't causing trouble, he didn't see any reason to pry into personal matters. How long she had been here, why she worked as a maid, or who even she was, he never bothered asking anything. But now he was 35. The maid still looked to be in her early 20s, just as she had the day he arrived. Jacopo leaned back in his chair, staring absently at the ceiling, watching the smoke from his cigar waft upward. The maid who quit was long gone, probably living with her family. He'd considered introducing her to the new house, but he had so many mates quit on him, he was running out of acquaintances to voice them on. Yeah, okay. There was a knock on the door. And towards it said, "Who is it?" "It is I," came the voice of the head maid. He called her in, and the woman who stepped through the door was indeed identical in appearance to the 13 years prior. She floated gracefully to the center of the office, not making a single sound. He felt almost as he was watching a ghost. "One of the younger maids left today," she said. "So I want to discuss with you how we should proceed redistributing the work." "I leave that to you as always. I'll take care of finding a replacement." "Yes, master," she said with the bow. Usually that would be the end of the discussion, and she would dismiss herself, but for some reason she stood there unmoving, her deep, unreadable eyes of jade locked on his. Okay, why sudden change from normal behavior? "What is it?" he asked with a frown mildly uncomfortable. "Have you considered dismissing me?" she said, wearing the same fake smile she always had on. Oh, okay, because she's the reason why everyone leaving. Her face was likely perfectly craved mask. I know that the maids have been quitting because of me. They've seen what I look like, and so rumors have been going around. The young girls are especially impressionable, so they are more likely to believe them. Have you considered dismissing me? Jacopo tapped his cigar against the ashtray on his desk, then leaned back on his chair. He had considered it before, but he always came to the same conclusion. Every other maid could quit and would be slowed down work as much as losing you. Oh my. You think quite highly of me. I know a capable worker when I see one, and you're more than capable. Hell, sometimes I wonder if you've been doing this job for hundreds of years. My, she said, her smile widening. You are on the good track here, Jacopo. You just... If I have been a maid for hundreds of years, that would make me a ghost. Yeah, kinda. Well, aren't you? He almost said. 5 or 6 years ago, he might have been able to chuck it up to a good makeup, but 13 years wasn't something you could just hide like that. Jacopo didn't like talk of ghosts or supernatural or any of this nonsense, but it reached a point he simply couldn't think of any natural explanation. Why don't we have a little chat? I would like to get to know a little about you. Okay. Interesting. Her eyes went wide at the proposition. It had been a while since he'd seen her make a face other than that pristine smile, but even her surprise seems artificial. With her, only the most restrained of emotions came across the genie. Is it going to rain tomorrow, master? You have never shown any interest in me before. Yeah, are you ill? Are you not feeling well? Indeed, you might want to set your overcoat out. Yeah. Now, what was it that you wished to know? Okay, what are you? He asked, not dancing around the question. The head maid gave a little giggle in response. I'm but a mermaid, master. Yeah, that's about what I figured you'd say. Next, who was your previous master? He was a very precarious man, drifting between man and beast. Oh, like not Michelle, but the previous door, because this is a situation from the third door. Second door was Ukimasa. Yeah, okay. I see. Okay. Makes sense. What the hell was that supposed to mean? That doesn't sound like a very good master to me. Did he even pay you? No, sir. The house was in shambles at the time. He thought under a long stream of smoke. When on earth was she speaking of? When he had bought this property, it was a little outdated, but otherwise in a good shape. If he took her at the word, that would have been at least 30 years ago. He wanted to press her further, but he knew she would just laugh and brush the question aside. So he took another puff on his cigar and asked, and who was before that? The father of the 2 adorable little children. He was royally at house. Those of his wife, son and daughter served as my masters, yeah. They were a noble family, and they treated me quite well. Ah, and no nobility had lived here. My, you believe me, master? Oh, so you realize it sounds ridiculous, do you? I understand made you seem somewhat unbelievable to you, yes? Well, I'm not completely taking you at the word, that's for sure. This is just casual conversation after all, and all I know, we are all prone to some embellishment. So, it was before that. Are we going to... okay. Sibling's grandfather. He was the man who taught me how to be the Abigail. I mean, a maid. Okay. That's the word that probably is lost in time. Everyone calling them probably had a maid, not the Abigail anymore. He loved roses, and I would often go out to admire the flowers with him. Jacob had wished at the word rose. A reminder of the great mistake he'd made years ago. I don't remember what was that. Anyone can tell me what he means? I don't remember. Help. He snaked a glance at the window, closed his eyes and whispered, I see. Right, he continued. Who was before that? Before him was a gaze drifted upward. Then a rift formed in their persona. Barely perceptible, and he didn't stay past Jacob notice. She's not going to tell, isn't she? She's going to say that she doesn't remember or something because she's already in the maid shell, basically. So this is the time when she forgot about Michelle at this point, right? Or that's the time when she actually started remembering again. I don't remember. She still wore that eerie flawless smile, but her thin cracks had appeared in her jade eyes, allowing a carefully hidden murkiness to seep to the surface. For a split second, she seems to be worried to the core, looking out towards a faraway land she could never reach, and it was gone just as quickly. Before him was my dearly beloved, whose return I'm still waiting. For that reason, I hesitate to call him my master. Okay. I'm terribly excited for their eventual return though. Sounds complicated, he said. I won't pry any further. She gave a wide smile. It was best to just leave it as that, he thought. They weren't friends. She was a maid and he was her master. Next question. I don't know how I never asked it this before, Jacob said, letting it hang in the air for a second. What is your name? My name is the maid. Saying it out loud only emphasized how ridiculous a question it was. He had this woman in his hire for 13 years, without so much as knowing her name. With every other maid, he knew their name, age, family history, and more before they even signed the contract. But her? He never had a contract for her in the first place, which was unthinkable for a man who didn't even allow himself to make small mistakes. Yeah, she could poison you. She had no idea how he could have let this happen. The only explanation he could think of was some unnatural power, diverting his attention from it. My. You can simply call me the head maid, as you have all these years. Yeah. She's not going to tell him. I'm the master of this house, I'm telling you to tell me your name, he said in his unflinching business voice, to which she gave him the same smile as ever. And then, when she offered him the name she believed to be her own, the air in the room seemed to crack. Okay. My name is Morgana, master. Yeah, right. She was like considering herself Morgana. I think she was, yeah. As the maid, she considered herself as the Morgana, I think, right? Because first it was Giselle that was like tormented by Morgana. Then Giselle created a shell that created a maid. And the maid herself was thinking that she's Morgana. If I remember correctly. The events. Jacob's eyes went wide. He wasn't as prone to shouting now as he had been in his emotionally troubled 20s. That was enough to push him over the edge. No, it's not, he yelled, unsure why he was so uncertain. Oh. He feels like subconsciously his previous life? And the Morgana name? Interesting! There was another crack in the air between them. He lurched out of his chair, the force sending the topping of the floor. She meanwhile looked only mildly surprised. No, that name does not belong to you. Interesting! He remembers. For some reason. He doesn't probably know even why. Oh my, then to whom does it belong? It's... She giggled, every second he spent in presence of that stony smile. It felt like a knife to the heart. Okay, maybe I was wrong. Maybe she did not consider herself Morgana, and just bullshitted him here, just to see his reaction. I don't remember exactly if Maid considered herself Morgana or not. Can you remind me? I think she considered herself as the Morgana, at least for some time. You know? At least for some time. By any reasonable measure, she was in the right. Had no place to deny someone else their name. But deep down, he just couldn't accept the name as belonging to the head maid. Master? Your hand. He looked down to see his fist clenched around the slit-lit cigar. The faint smell of burnt flesh rose up from it, though he didn't even feel the heat. Jacopo threw the crushed cigar to the ground. He had no idea why hearing a single name had sent him into such a frenzy, and not having an explanation only agitated him further. I think that's quite enough conversation for one day. Please, just call me the headmaid, as you always have. Now do excuse me, master, she said, and Jacopo could only watch in silence as she drifted out of his office. Jacopo's wife's bedroom was on the second floor next to his own, so he already met the white-haired girl here. I thought like he did not, because in the beginning there was that he didn't have wife or something. Where was it? I don't see it. I think we don't have backlog that much. Okay, never mind. Maybe I just misunderstood the beginning. Specifically the room she had used in the early days of their marriage. In response to information shared with him by the good friend, which he trusted blindly, he had moved her to the first floor. Then, still unable to trust her, he had relocated her to an entirely separate building on the property. Her room on the second floor had remained untouched since her disappearance. So, this is the time when she's already in the shed in the garden? That's the timeline here? Knowing she was sensitive to sunlight, he had heavy light blocking curtain installed on the windows. And then, so the room didn't feel too gloomy, he had it furnished with the white fabrics and the light wooden furniture. And was still there. He included the room in the maid's daily cleaning duties, but many of them considered it a waste of time, so casually it wouldn't be neglected. In the past, he would have yelled at them for that, but now he just gave stern reminders to do all their assigned work. Which worked, though he could tell they weren't pleased. No one actually believed his wife could ever come back. Is this after? White-haired girl in Jacopo door in the third door escaped, right? I think like last time we saw white-haired girl in Jacopo door was when she opened the door, or someone, I mean Maria probably, opened the door. Like left open, and she opened the door, saw the painting, because she saw the painting as well. And a letter, I think. And then, yeah, she wrote a letter that she's going away, I think. And she just disappeared. So this is happening after white-haired girl escape. Okay. Okay. Yeah, I had to like dust it off, the third door ending. After losing everything at the age of 26, he had set out in search for his missing wife. Both with his own 2 feet by hiring private investigators to look for her all across the globe. But even after so many years, he had nothing to show for it. Jacopo was beginning to think himself that she would never be back. He wouldn't give up, for no one reason. She had witnessed steadfastly for him, even after being broken mentally and spiritually. So, he had an obligation to do the same. It wasn't worth much, but it was the least he could do for her, being the one responsible for hurting her, so he wished to have just one last chance to see her again, atone for all the damage he'd done. He's doing way better job than in his original life with Morgana, that's for sure. At least he did not stop trying to find her. That was the only thing keeping him alive, now that he had nothing else. He stood quietly in his wife's bedroom. On the desk sat her... the thing with dancing pair. I don't thought I would see this word again. Yellowed over the years. He could still see her calling in her Faneki's wheel with a gentle smile on her face. The same smile he had stolen from her and crushed under his feet. It's a pleasure to meet you. He could hear her voice as clear as the day they had gotten married. Hers was soft, almost musical voice, the sound of which he would never forget. It's a pleasure to meet you. My name is Michelle. They first met on the day of their wedding in the waiting room. She was wearing a veil at the same time, so it wasn't until they made their vows that she saw the brilliantly affectionate smile on her face. Did White-Haired Girl actually told, like, a reader her name? I don't think so, right? We only learned this name, like, later in general. Or, like, Michelle. I don't think, like, White-Haired Girl ever, like, introduced herself as the Michelle in, like, the door, right? I think. Maybe I don't remember, but I don't think so. She was always called wife, I think, only. By Jacopo and everyone around. In the third door. She was wearing the veil at the time, so it wasn't until they made vows that he saw the brilliantly affectionate smile on her face. A perfect match for her name, he thought, which came from the Archangel Michael. There's no one for whom the angel name would be more appropriate. But now the pieces had come loose with the headmaid's earth-shattering proclamation, and they were coming together to form a distance picture altogether. The day Jacopo met his wife, somewhere deep down he felt as though he had known her, somewhere long, long ago. Oh. That he had been searching for her the entire time. He'd wanted nothing more than to bask in the light of that smile once more. And he would do anything to make sure she never lost it again. Ha! This is actually very interesting. Because, like, yeah, like, it might be a little bit confusing because Michelle, we know our Michelle, right? If she calls herself Michelle as the White-Haired Girl, sure, it's a bit confusing, but White-Haired Girl is actually a part of Soul of Morgana. So yeah, Jacopo is feeling very familiar with her, even though the name is different, but he said, like, he would do anything to make sure he never loses it again and stuff, because he feels like, yeah, it's Morgana. He couldn't, like, tell, you know, that this is Morgana and stuff, but yeah, you get what I say. He saw a vision of a forgotten graveyard he had never seen before. He had flashbacks for this? A young guy crashed before the makeshift handstone, turning back to look at him. Her smile the same as the one he had married. Her eyes went wide, and he thought he was crying. But they were perfectly dry. He had long since lost ability to weep. Was Michelle really your name? Jacopo's soul was bound by 2 sets of chains. Oh, okay. Weighted down by 2 great transgressions. He could feel them both distinctly. He understood how terrible the things he had done were, and that he deserved no redemption. Ha! few days later, Jacob was returning from an on-site inspection and decided to pass through the garden on the way. A woman with the long black hair crouched before the small flower bed, practically blending into the night. Okay, the maid, right? Hearing her master's footsteps, she stood up, brushed the dirt off her skirt, and gave him the ever-flawless smile. "Good evening, master. What brings you to the garden this evening?" "I was looking for you," he said. "Oh my. Have you not been yourself you have not been yourself lately, sir?" "Is it love? Because I'm afraid my heart already belongs to someone else." "That's not funny. My heart's already taken too. And not by you." She giggled impishly. "You're quite right, master. You never told the object of your affection I was looking for you." "Hey, that's your boss you're talking to." "Yeah." Jacob assented, glancing over at the flower bed. The whole area had once been a magnificent rose garden, but he had ordered it destroyed 9 years earlier. Okay, that's what he meant by the mistake. Okay. Enough time had passed, and he was able to grow out of his hatred of flowers though. Irrational. So it was the handmade efforts that had brought it back to life, on a smaller scale for the time being. "I apologize for what I did to the rose garden," he said. "Wow, Jacopo, what the hell?" he said, with a licked and bewildered stare from her. His gaze still averted, and he continued. "You were fond of roses too, weren't you? You mentioned coming out to look at the flowers with one of your previous masters, the nobleman, was it? And now I think about it, you were the one who looked after the garden the most as well." "Yeah." The handmaid let his words hang in the air for a few moments, then gave him a quizzical look. What has gotten into him, she thought. But giving it a bit more consideration, she understood. He had plenty of time to reflect on his mistakes, so an apology was not surprising. Okay. Still surprising, anyway, this is Jacopo we are talking about. She had grown so numb with the passage of time that she'd forgotten Jacopo was just a young businessman, still getting his feet wet when they first met. So Green he had no trouble in hiring a mysterious maid who refused to talk about herself, eventually assigning her to the position of the headmaid. Power influenced business relationships, restless nights, constant betrayal. The pressure of life he'd chosen had corrupted him. And then, in the wake of the great tragedy, he had managed to rid himself of some of that corruption. But only after he had lost the two people to whom that change would matter most. "You need to apologize. You need not apologize to me for anything," she said. "As a matter of fact, I bear some fault myself for failing to see the truth. I could have stopped you, master, and I could have prevented the destruction of the rose garden too." You could, but yeah, his soul is kind of fucked up at that part. "You're just a maid," he said. "You are in no position to see anything I couldn't." Yeah, that's the thing. I should have caught on Maria's scheming sooner, and I should have trusted my wife. The truth I failed to see was not theirs, it was yours, master. Mine? Yes. I failed to see the kindness and love in your heart. Ha! Jacopo glared at the smiling handmaid like she just told an offensive joke. If that were true, I wouldn't have been so obsessed with money and personal gain. I wouldn't have killed my closest friend, and I wouldn't have abused my wife. Yeah, pretty much same thing with Barnier, you know? Yeah, money, gain, Gratien, Morgana, yeah, pretty much the same. Were your monetary desires truly as selfish as you claim? He clenched his teeth, turning away from her clear jade eyes. He felt like she was looking straight through him. You wanted the money, she said. For your homeland, your family, your friend, your beloved, am I mistaken? Yes, you are, he spat. While it was true he had wanted money for all those things, they were not his only motivation. He'd also wanted it for power, to put himself on the top of the world, safe from anyone who would betray him. But eventually, money and power changed from the means into the goals itself, sending him far off the path. Had he simply kept his eye on his true objective, rather than obsessing endlessly over how to protect himself, he could have done more than both Mara and his wife. The head maid gave him a somewhat melancholy smile. If you so insist, master, then yes, I am mistaken. Nonetheless, it is all the past now. Neither of us can take back the choices we made then. Yeah, and you're going to die alone, as I remember correctly. Precisely. You could say it was all supposed to be for his wife or Maria. But what would that accomplish? Nothing. Allegedly noble intentions didn't excuse the kind of pain he had caused. He let out a short sigh, casting all those thoughts aside. I was looking for you because I needed you for something. Yes, what can I help you with? She asked. He turned his gaze towards the mansion, staring up at the long abandoned tower. Okay. Maybe remembering vaguely imprisoning Morgana there? It seemed almost radiant in the light of the full moon. Come with me. Okay, interesting. When Jacob purchased the mansion, it had already gone through repairs to bring up the habitable condition. There was just one area that remained conspicuously in the disrepair. Initially he was planning to have that strange decrepit tower demolished. There was no point in having it repaired only to sit in use. So he wanted to replace it with something actually useful like the storeroom. But for some reason, which he still didn't understand, he could never bring himself to destroy the tower. Ah! Okay. This is cool that he's so remembering the Barnier times. I guess that wouldn't be much of the torment for him if he wouldn't remember something, right? Or have a feeling of remembering. The entrance to the tower was all the back of what he called the second Great Hall. A mostly unused hall near the back of the property. There were rumors among the maids about strange sounds and ghosts and blood dripping from the ceiling, going as back far as when Mara was still alive. Back then, he recalled telling her it was the nonsense and that he had no interest in humans' ghost stories. But the truth was something did seem so over the hall. Not in the frightening or unsettling way though. Being there, he felt smothered with guilt and shackled with sorrow, so he avoided going to the second great hall as much as possible. He hadn't even had lights installed in the hall, so stepping through the door felt like entering an entirely isolated realm of darkness. Okay? Jacopo and the head maid each carried a lamp to light their way through the hall. At the far end stood the door not opened in countless years. Just an ordinary wooden door, though with a simple lock, not the heavy metal one with the complicated 3K lock. Okay. As he unlocked the door with his master key, the head maid whispered, "Why did you bring me here?" My questions exactly. She considered following it with, "Were you too scared to come on your own?" But even she couldn't bring herself to make light of things in the tower's presence. Okay. I started paying more attention to you recently after the last maid quit, and I noticed when you're not focused on something, you're looking towards one of the two places. The former garden or this tower. Okay. So he got curious why. So I thought it would be the best to bring you with me when I came to see the tower. Let's see. The inside of the tower was as black as the abyss, even darker than the hall leading to it. The light From there, two oil lamps revealed a long spiral staircase leading up. And something stirred in the long frozen heart of the headmaid at the side of the staircase. Yeah. This staircase is close for her too. This is not just Morgana's staircase. This is Giselle and Michelle's staircase as well. Everything is connected here. Jacopo set a foot on the first stair, pressing down on it hard in several places. It let out the low creaks under his weight, but then seems to be in danger of breaking. That said, it was still abandoned tower at night and nobody knew they were here. It was a terrible idea that would go wrong at any time, and he knew it. Watching him slowly climb the stairs they had made, chest grew tight. For an instant she wasn't seeing him, but someone else. Remembering Michelle, oh my god. They were holding her by the hand, running up and up and up, and yeah. Why did you want to see the tower? Sorry, got disrupted. Why did you want to see the tower? She said, trying to bring herself back to the present. Hell if I know. She tilted her head. He almost never acted without a clear reason. All I do know is I got the strangest feelings, and I would find something about myself here. Yeah. And see, she said, putting on a smile, I do have a strange feeling that it will find something of myself here too. Climbing the decaying staircase was a long, arduous process. Every so often they passed the window carved out of the stone wall. The light from the moon illuminated the path before them, guiding sinner and prisoner, even apart. Wow! What a line! Even more revolutions than the headmaid was able to count. The end was finally in sight, but there was one final obstacle. They could reach the door to the top. The next section of the staircase had collapsed. Okay, so they cannot actually get to the top. Shall we head back? The headmates asked. If they were to attempt to proceed, one of them would undoubtedly slip and take a fall down straight to hell. Surely Jacopo would realize that there was no way forward and give up. But she was wrong. Leaning against the stone wall for support, he placed his right foot on little remained on the next stair. Wow, he's so persistent about this. And then he carefully guided his left foot to the next. Several slow, meticulous steps later, a chunk of stone gave out under his weight, tumbling downwards into the abyss. But even that was not enough to stop his determined procession. She watched him in silence. She was not afraid that he might fall, however, because if that were to happen, then that simply meant he was fated to die here. It was insignificant detail to her. As long as she was able to wait for her beloved to return, nothing else mattered. But he made it across the collapsed region unharmed. It seems the mansion was not ready to be rid of him yet. He turned around, shining his oil lamp over the gap. You're free to wait there. No, I will accompany you. Then she gracefully lifted her skirt off the ground and followed the same crumbling path across the chasm he had. When she finally made it across, he gave her a smirk. Damn it, I thought you were going to float across like a ghost. I mean, probably could. I guess you really are alive. To which he responded with a little smile. They resumed their climb, soon reaching the top level of the tower. Beyond the door, half rotten away, sat a chamber with a single window high up on the wall. Though it shone a pillar of moonlight. The two of them entered the chamber, proceeding to the center of the room. The air inside was far colder than the autumn night that had left behind. It chilled them both to their bones, their souls. Jacopo stood in place, gazing up at the window for some time. Then he walked up on the stone wall, dropping to his knees in front of what appeared to be nothing at all. He traced the irregular surface with his fingers, his hand slowly forming into a fist and dropping lifelessly to the hard floor. He gets a feeling about this place like, oh my god. She could hardly see a trace of the powerful, wealthy businessman he was in that slouched form. He seems so much smaller on the vague, withering away. Did you find something about yourself here? She asked, her voice carrying well in the cold, empty chamber. Yeah, he said, his voice shaking. There was far more contained. There was far more contained in that single syllable than she could ever hope to discover. For a moment, she thought he was crying, but from the glimpse she caught of his face, his eyes were dry, though he looked pale like a ghost. Ah, so did he actually remember? Then spent his rest of his life basically remembering this? She stepped toward him, gently placing her hand upon his back, and then she spoke, breaking her personal vow to remain an observer. If you wish to end your life here, I can offer you my hand. Wow. The man spun around to face her. There was neither anger nor surprise in his eyes, though. Why would you say that? I know, she said. Seeing you there on your knees, the words simply came out. It felt as though that was what he wanted. She lowered herself to her knees as well, so their eyes were at the same level. He flinched, but did not avert his gaze from hers. You're right, he muttered, barely audible. There was a time when I did want that. A long time ago. He do remember things. But still, I descended those stairs. I couldn't let myself just toss aside what I had sacrificed, anything to attain. Even knowing there was only suffering to be found at the bottom. That's exactly why I had to own it. Just like I have to own my mistakes now. I see. And I shall observe and see where this path takes you. Yeah, what a wretched man, she thought, smiling. She wasn't experienced enough maid to know to keep that thought to herself, though. And she herself was also a wretched woman, who had wanted to die alongside her love at the top of this very tower. Yeah, but in broken mind, those memories had been transformed into a fairy tale. The full moon had begun its descent by the time they left the cold chamber. At the collapsed section of stairs, Jacob crossed first, as he had going up. They had made and made to follow after him, but was instead greeted to his hand extended across the gap. Okay. He tilted her head. Obviously he was offering her assistance in crossing, but she had made it over with no difficulty the first time, so she couldn't understand why. Not to mention, the master of the house had no obligation to help a lowly maid. But he bathed the glow of the moon, her hands stretched out to take his. Is this like he's like trying to atone for not helping Morgana, and he's like, I'm going to help you instead now, or something? Is that what's going through his mind? Before she realized what happened, they had both lost those they cared about most. And when their fingers touched, he saw a bright, spirited young woman with the infectious smile. And she saw a kind-hearted and sometimes aggressive young man. What a short story! Holy crap! This is good! I like this! It is very interesting. So it's like, Jacob was like helping Morgana basically. Something he did not do last time, he couldn't do last time, right? And at the same time, from the maid perspective, it's a Giselle going down with Michelle, which she couldn't do last time. She couldn't follow him last time. This is so cool. Giselle and the safe, vestiges of their long forgotten selves, bursting forth for the tiniest, most insignificant of moments. Michelle, to tell you the truth, I wanted nothing more than to descend those stairs with you hand in hand. Just what I said! Morgana, to tell you the truth, I wanted nothing more than to go back to those days when I could still take your hand. Not exactly what Actually, yeah, actually, pretty much the same. Like, he could help her. By the time the headmaid had made it across the club stairs, the shadow of their old selves had disappeared without trace. Only the maid, who always wore a smile, and the fallen businessman, remained there in the tower. Faint connection had formed between them though. Shared isolation and emptiness. Empathy and similarly damaged souls. But that would fade in time. Their connection is fleeting as the autumn night. With him leading the way, and her following behind, they descended the spiral staircase together. And what about you? He asked. Were you able to find something about her yourself there? Here. Yes, she said. I believe I did. But I fear it will slip through my fingers again before long. Yeah. She keeps forgetting. You never struck me as the forgetful type. I have been for some time. Oh yeah. I have no room for new memories anymore. Oh, that's probably for the best, he said. It would be the best if you forgot what you found here as well. Not a chance. My, she said, you're quite the intractable one. I could say the same about you. Say, master. What is it? I want to tell you something before I forget the things I felt tonight. Yeah? I was not terribly fond of you when we first met. Yeah, that sounds about right. But that's not true any longer. Is that so? It is. The truth is, I thought you were creepy as hell at first. Didn't even want to look at you. That sounds about right. But that's not the case anymore. Is that so? Yeah, it is. Wow. I really like that short story. That was awesome. Also, it's been extremely long. I think it was about an hour. So I think it's going to be actually a separate episode. So yeah. Thank you for joining. Yeah. And I will see you in the next one. So click like button, subscribe, check my Discord, become a member. Comments are yours. No long outro. And yeah. See you next one. Thank you for watching. So for now, Pocket Watch is going out.